What's a company secret you can share, because you don't work there anymore? So, worked for ESPN for years. They used to charge people to be an insider, which gave you fantasy advice if you sent an email. Those experts were myself and other randoms, here in Omaha, Nebraska in a call center. No training, just our opinions. Lamau. Always thought BA, fantasy football guru, would be the best job ever. You're paid money to come up with projections that are largely either common sense or impossible to foresee, and nothing you do matters, because it's fantasy football. Camera shop I worked in, as a kid. Owner used to make an extra print of the nudes, and kept them in a photo album he hid in the back of the shop. Thought it was funny as a 15-year-old. Seems pretty F now. My mom has several stories from she was a cop, quit in the 90s, about getting calls from photo shops, when they developed photos of possible assaults. People would just forget, or think that, no one was going to look at the photos. She had to break it to more than one girl, over the years, that it looked like she'd been while drunk or passed out. Pawn shop. If you pawn or sell your laptop, phone, or camera, delete nudes or personal pictures. I had a boss that would go through each device. This idiot would go through and try to show me pics like I gave a F. And he legally could, because the customer signs a waiver. Delete your shit, peeps. Just deleting is not enough, folks. You need to do a secure erase of the hard drive. This means overwriting the entire hard drive with new random data. Deleting a file, under normal conditions, just means deleting a reference to it in the file system, but the data is actually there, still as zeros and ones, until overwritten by another file. Photo/file recovery software looks for this data, on free space on the hard drive, and can bring it back. I used to work for a credit card company, and on their application's website, there was a checkbox for priority processing. This cost £10, and ensured that you jumped the queue when applications were processed. In reality, there wasn't any such queue jumping facility. Everyone who paid extra for priority processing was automatically declined as they were deemed too desperate for credit. At a major insurance company, I wrote software for was very big on security. If we needed to make an update, we weren't allowed to remote into the server, even though you physically could. It was just against policy. To make an update, you had to put your changes onto portable storage, show your ID to the security guy, use your key to open the door, get escorted to the server, then they'd observe you via cameras. The login? Admin. The password? Blank. Literally, no password. Tobacco companies would deliberately leave packs of cigarettes exposed at liquor stores, where kids could steal them, because a pack stolen is a pack sold. They'll be back soon to buy a pack. At Victoria's Secret, I would measure the girls/women's bra size. We only sell up to 38 DDD in store. I was told by my managers that if someone measured over a 38 DDD, to just lie and say a close size. Usually if they were a 40 or 42, we could recommend online shopping, but for people who were 44, 46, 48, we always had to say 38 band size anyway, and get them a bra, and convince them to not try it on in store. That way, we made a sale. Returns didn't affect the numbers apparently. I always was honest to the customer about their size, and because of that, a lot of women walked out, because we didn't carry their size, but my managers were very number and sale heavy, that they would sometimes come over and lie about the women's size, if they saw me measuring wrong. There's a lot more about Victoria's Secret, where this came from. Care companies make a fortune by running short-staffed. This was happening pre-pandemic too, to the point where it's part of the business model. A care home funded to have say, 10 staff on shift per day manages to keep everybody clean, fed and watered on just 6. You think they refund the council for all those extra hours? Nah, straight into the profit column. I used to remodel Pizza Hut's, Arby's, Wendy's, and KFC stores. Arby's kitchens were the cleanest I've ever seen anywhere. KFC had grease residue, but still clean. Wendy's wasn't bad, just not as thorough. The first Pizza Hut had me swear them off for life, and continued to gossip that opinion for the next 20+ stores. I've not eaten Pizza Hut in 25 years. My kids have never eaten Pizza Hut. There's a ton of employee theft that occurs at certain furniture outlets. Employee wants a new couch? Then just type up an invoice saying, "This $3,000 sofa was damaged while being moved around the showroom. and it was then discounted and sold for $299. Got a sectional that was delivered, but doesn't show up on your inventory sheet? Just take it home and post it on Facebook Marketplace. One guy was even so brazen that he would sell something, then fudge the numbers to make it look like it was sold at a lower price, and pocket the difference. For instance, a sofa is listed at $1,000, but it's been sitting for a while, so he has some leeway to offer a discount. Well, here comes a customer and buys the sofa for $1,000. The salesman reports that the customer negotiated the price down to $800, and he pockets the extra $200. That particular guy got so confident that he could get away with anything, that he even started taking cuts of sales that were made with credit/debit cards. Someone comes in and buys a sofa for $1,000 on a credit card. He then writes that the customer came back the same day and complained about a rip in one of the cushions, so he issued a $150 cash refund to please the customer. That dude stole into the $10,000 and got away with it for years. When the regional management finally figured it out, they just fired the guy and kept the whole incident quiet. Most clothes that get donated to Goodwill get thrown out. At a normal store, they go through donations, and if it isn't good enough, stains or tears on clothes, electronics that don't work, etc. Or if it's been in the store for a month, it gets sent to a Goodwill outlet store. Those are cheaper, but a lot of things still don't get bought there. If they're at the outlet store for long enough, they're just thrown out. You wouldn't think it would be that many clothes, but in the few months I worked there, about half our donations got sent to the outlet stores, and most of the stuff there gets thrown out eventually. Also, please don't donate your cum socks to Goodwill. There is a Goodwill outlet right next to a Goodwill near me. They share the same entrance. The Goodwill outlet is basically the same as what's on the Goodwill side, but with no organization. It's just tossed in bins or on areas of the floor for furniture and things like that. I found a huge brand new kennel cab there once, for $6, but mostly, it's just junk. A few years ago, David's Bridal announced that regular and plus-sized wedding gowns would be the same price, like, a size 24 wouldn't be $150 more than its size 4 counterpart. They did this by marking up the regular sizes to match the plus-sized prices. Not sure if this is a secret, but worked in payments industry for one of the major firms, and the tech is absolute dog shit. Banks and payment firms have some of the oldest, most broken tech around. I worked in IT for a bank, and confirmed this. They just build an interop layer for the new tech to talk to the old. Their whole architecture is like an onion, layer upon layer of systems. The senior partner at a regional office of a law firm insisted on opening all incoming office correspondence so he could add charges to the client's files for himself. He'd charge out $1,000, $1,200 per day, reading mail that he had no need to. 90% of the correspondence was for matters that he was not working on, or was not qualified to work on. He was a commercial lawyer, reading correspondence on criminal/family law matters. He once charged for his time, reading a letter attaching a check, which was a fundraising donation to be sent to the family of the deceased. Edit: wow, my karma just doubled overnight. To those who asked why I didn't report it, I did, to company management. I lost my job shortly thereafter, due to apparently not needing as many staff. They were hiring new staff a month later. It was the second job I mysteriously lost, after approaching management about incorrect/illegal procedures being followed. I saw another staff member fired, after complaining about sexual harassment from a partner who was the office bullying and harassment contact. I believe she got a nice handout to go away and not make trouble. Brake pads are free after the first purchase. This shouldn't be a secret, but apparently it is, for most people. I managed an AutoZone for 4 years. I noticed the brake pads have a lifetime warranty. Most people think that means if the brake pads have a problem, then they can get a new set. They don't, however, realize that includes normal wear. It's lifetime of the vehicle, not the pads themselves. So, when your brake pads wear out, you can just come trade them in for new ones at no cost, for as long as you own that vehicle, or really any vehicle that takes that specific part number, if you're sly enough. It's more or less a loss leader for the company to get people in the door. And most don't realize it, and pay for new pads every time theirs wear out, and don't mention the warranty or bring old ones to trade in, or get their money back. If you don't mention the warranty, we don't look it up. because we're usually too busy, or most employees too new, to even know it was a thing. Also, my district and regional bosses once told us, in a meeting, we had up to $150 per customer we could use to help them out to create a good experience, to keep people coming back. Most employees won't do it, because they're corporate booklickers, but you could get that battery for free, if the manager knows they're allowed to help people, in a bind out up to $150. I used to work, for Lowe's, in the contact center, not the store. Absolutely no one knows where your package is. What you see on the tracking info you're given, is what we see. You've been waiting 7 months for your refrigerator? That sucks. Hopefully it'll get there eventually. We don't know if the inventory, reflected to us, is correct or not. Policy is, if it says it's in stock, we tell you it's in stock, despite the fact that there's a good chance it's not in stock. Item not coming fast enough? Want a refund? I'll submit the request for you, but it might be a month before you hear back. Lowe's doesn't give a F about you, or your order, which might be obvious. But what might not be obvious is that absolutely effing no one in that company has any clue what's going on at any given time. Everything is run completely on guesses. Not even best guesses. Oftentimes, just wild guesses. I worked at a company selling beauty and health products, and I'm in charge of their finances. From product to packaging, it cost us $13 to make. We sell one for $200, and people bought them like crazy. We went from making thousands to making millions per month. However, making that much money in a short amount of time is what eventually kills the company. I worked at Abercrombie Fitch in 2008. I don't even know where to start. Sales associates were called models, and you had to be recruited to work there. There was a look policy, and a bunch of books for managers to look at pictures of people who had the Abercrombie look. This was a bizarre guideline for managers to recruit by. Managers basically got promoted based on their ability to recruit attractive employees. Associates, who were not as attractive, could work in the back and be part of the impact team. Every few months or so, the top 5 attractive girls and the top 5 attractive guys would get together for a casted photo. I have no clue what the point of this was, but it got sent to corporate A&F. I remember a lot of hurt feelings around this, because many people wouldn't be asked to be in it. The store did not sell any black clothing at that time. Associates could not wear eye makeup, lipstick, blush, or nail polish. If you had any of these on, a manager could send you home, or ask you to take it off in the back. The cologne sprayed out of machines in the ceilings, and we would also go around and spray the clothes every few hours. Everything needed to be folded to perfection, and the message I got was that making the store look nice came before customer service. The previous CEO has been gone for a long time and it's totally different now. They rebranded to be more like H&M or other fast fashion chains. I don't think a store could survive like that in 2022. Some of the practices were so controversial. Used to work for Walmart. Horrible start already, I know. They purposely underscheduled your hours, so you wouldn't qualify for full-time benefits. Let me explain. I was hired on as a full-timer. I found out the company offers different levels of benefits, including health insurance, if you're full-time, compared to part-time. I don't remember the specifics, but part-timers got limited dental and vision, only included partial purchase of frames. Full-timers got full dental, and everything was included in your vision plan, the doctor visit, the prescription, full frame purchase, etc. Well, in order to be considered full-time you need to work more than 33 hours consistently for 3 months. If you're anything less than 33 hours, you're considered part-time. My schedule was always 33 hours or more, for exactly 2 months and 3 weeks. My very last work week of the 3-month time period would be 32.5 hours exactly, and each and every 3 months this would happen. I had asked my manager why this kept happening, and she lied to my face, every time. Different excuses each time too. Saying, the store manager didn't allow overtime. Or how the company didn't have any extra hours to give. Or say, the store manager didn't project for any additional hours for our department. But the biggest one is, that we'd get in trouble if we worked even 1 minute over. We had to constantly check our hours, and if we stayed late one day, they'd force us to leave early on that last week, but usually they'd force us to take longer lunches. Essentially, screwing the other people in our department. Oh, and the biggest issue was, let's say you finally work for 3 months straight at 33 hours or over, and quality for full-time benefits. If on your next 3-month cycle you worked, even 1 week, at 32 hours, you'd go back to part-time benefits. You'd lose your full-time benefit status really quickly. This happened to many other coworkers I knew. We used to throw any donuts, bagels, or muffins out at the end of every night at dunking. 1 week around Christmas time, we would donate the food, but other than that, it was all waste, and if we took any home ourselves, we would get charged for it. I worked at a large, organic food grocery store. Most of our produce wasn't organic. Amish people would buy produce, slap a certified organic sticker on them, and sell them to us. We knew it, but it didn't stop us because it meant much higher profits. I went to that grocery store's top organic food rival for a job interview. I was offered the job, but I opted to not take it because the drive was too far and the pay wasn't much more. However, when they gave me a tour, the same Amish produce seller was there. I asked the store manager, "Is all of your produce organic?" She smiled and said, "All of our produce is labeled organic, so what do you think?" I said, "I think I recognize those Amish people from my previous job." And she laughed about that for about 10 minutes. Organic food is such a sham. The security company that I used to work for, their logo is a yellow horse and the name rhymes with Saladin. They've been the target of numerous lawsuits from former employees because of working conditions, abusive behavior from management, and forcing employees to work way beyond the end of their shifts. They tried to reprimand me for going to a job interview with another company. The lady that used to run the Halifax office slept around with a number of employees. This was confirmed by a few people, including a supervisor and CSM that left. They forced a guard to work an overtime shift, whilst he was suffering from a ruptured testicle, after being kicked by an irate hospital patient. They also tried to force another employee to work, while she was suffering a gallbladder attack. They only relented when a police officer, who was on site, reminded them that it was illegal for them to force someone to work while they were ill. Edit, company as Paladin Security. They are holes. Panera soups and mac and cheese are frozen. Soup not used that day gets bagged and stored in the cooler for next day use, usually the next morning. The soup is still warm, as the night staff didn't cool it properly. Most of the sweets in the bakery case are frozen, not made fresh. Most Paneras would not pass an unannounced health inspection. They are usually tipped off that the health inspector is in the area. Sanitizing buckets that are supposed to be changed every 2 hours are usually not changed all day. Source: worked for Panera for 12 years. This was before the worker shortage. How do you think things are now? Edit, forgot one, LOL. The proofer the bakers use to proof the bagels and bread is usually never clean, and is usually contaminated with black mold. We have a fake employee we transfer all our sales calls to. Let's call him Jack. Our manager got her actor friend to record a voicemail message, and anytime someone calls to sell us toner or warn us about our car's extended warranty, we'll say, "Oh, you wanted to talk to Jack," and transfer them to the fake voicemail. Soon, salespeople would start asking for Jack as soon as we picked up, and that saved time. Some even got really cocky, saying stuff like, "Hey, transfer me to Jack, sweetheart. He's expecting my call." Saved us a lot of time having to talk to them, and if it was a slow day, we can always get a laugh listening to the voicemails people left. Jack. I worked at a dodgy UK firm for elderly and disabled people. Back in the mid-2000s, their racket was selling stair lifts and mobility scooters to old people. They would install a stair lift for £3,000 to £5,000. Then keep tabs on the customer with courtesy calls until the old person passes. Offer to remove and resell the stair lift for the bereaved family. Sell the stair lift onto the next old person at full price. 90% of the time, the stair lift sale would get lost in the admin of dealing with the death/house sale/funeral and all the other goings on after a loved one passes. The family would just forget. If the family did call us, we were instructed to tell them we still had it in stock, but it hadn't sold. Even if they really pressed us for the stair lift, we had a pile of old broken ones in the mill building attic. But who has space to store a 15 inches pile of railing and chair? I left the company when they tried making me force sales on confused old people. Booking.com, warnings, book quickly, because there is only one room available in this hotel, are bullshit. Edit, this blew up. Just so you guys know, they are not only scummy with the customers. The reason that made me leave the company was, one day when I saw HR scolding one of my colleagues in front of the whole team, for not coming to the office 2 days prior. The reason my friend didn't come to the office was, because his son had a serious medical condition, and my friend had to rush him to an ER, but apparently, this reason was not good enough for booking. They treat their employees like shit. I used to work at a major DIY store, and every complaint we got was pretty much justified, because it almost always boiled down to the fact that we weren't properly staffed. Like most of the time, there'd be only one person working the paint section during the day, which is insane, since paint is one of the most popular things we sell. So, when he goes on break, there's just a bunch of frustrated customers who'd have to wait an hour just to pick out one thing. Phone stores commit identity fraud all the time because they screw up and make a mistake on your contract. Every shop I worked at, regardless of what company it was, they would forge signatures, fake secondary ID, like bank statements and bills and so on. And I worked in the industry for almost 20 years for every major provider in Australia, so it's not isolated, it's stupidly common across the whole industry. Even when people got caught doing it, it was all, "You naughty boy, don't get caught. I mean, don't do that next time," with a wink and a nudge nudge. They don't care, as long as they get their commission. Other issues I found very common. Salespeople who lie through their teeth to get people to sign up, and then when the complaints start to mount, the company simply shifts them to another store, and the manager tells the angry customers they've been sacked. Selling second-hand phones as brand new. Happened all the time. Shop demo phones, which are definitely not new, being sold on 2-year contracts as if they were. Salespeople not telling customers about free gifts that come with their plan, but still invoicing them and keeping them themselves. And not little stuff either, stuff like free games, consoles and TVs. Edit, for all the upset sales reps commenting, I'm sure there are some stores which do things properly, but I only worked in one in 20 years, where at least one of the things I've mentioned wasn't a regular occurrence. Of course I'm sure, you all work in the one store that doesn't do this. I worked at a financial betting company. Basically, customers bet on the movement of stocks, rather than actually buying and selling them. Officially, the company made money from a commission charged for each bet. But this is how the company actually made money. There were a very small percentage of customers who always won their bets, almost certainly, because of insider information. Whenever one of these people made a bet, the company placed the same bet, often for millions. I've since learned, this is pretty common for any gambling business, but it shocked me at the time. Went to a friend's house, and he showed me some mammoth bones that had been found when work began on a local housing estate. Instead of notifying the relevant authorities and having the place checked for vital archaeological study, which would have ended, or at least halted, building for a while, the companies involved hushed it up and quickly went on building their horrible matchbox houses. It kills me to know that there's a housing estate sitting on top of precious archaeological information. My old boss would inflate quotes by thousands and get the contractor to discount them at invoice and use the remaining balance as a credit to renovate his own house. The client would have $15,000 to redo a roof, for example. My boss would charge them $15,000 when in fact it only cost $10,000, and then get the contractor to discount him more credit, the remaining $5,000, for his own renovation in his own house. I'm pretty sure that is called insurance fraud.